Hello and welcome to the Learning Center. I'm Lillian Travellini and I'm so excited about today's guest. As you know, the mission of this show is to help the viewers learn new careers and new ways of life and new philosophies. And maybe it might change your life. And I think today's guest, Richard Marantz, is that right, Richard?
Marantz, yeah.
Marantz, will change your life. This is a book he wrote, and we're going to be talking about it today. Welcome,
Thank you.
Richard.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. 4 miles from Vermont? 400 miles or what?
4 hours. Yeah.
4 hours, yeah. Anyway, he came all the way from Vermont to be on the show for you people of this community. So Richard, tell me, how did this book come about?
Well, after years of practice and healing, a Tai Chi practice, meditation practices, spiritual practices, to heal from different traumas in my life, I received the only way I could ever say it is to not sugarcoat and say I received a true spiritual calling.
Yeah.
And I received a calling to share a message of peace. And I started to teach it, and it became very clear that I needed to tell my story and write a book to share this message of peace.
Right. So you just sat down one day and wrote it, and who started you writing it? When I read the book, you heard some voice, or inner voice, or whatever.
Yes, this is the message comes from Mary, and I've had different experiences with her over the years. But it's very clear, it had become very clear to me that the book and the message is not about her. This book is not about me.
Well, the title says about peace, right?
Right, the voice of peace.
Right.
So the whole point is to find peace within ourselves. It is about the message of peace. And so she came to me in a dream, and in other ways, but she came to me in a dream and instructed me to share a message of peace.
At the bar, tell us about that.
I work at a restaurant, bartend at a restaurant a couple nights a week in addition to my Tai Chi teaching. I help support my family. And one night I was cleaning up at the bar before I started my shift, and I always would wipe down the bar, and there was nobody else in the restaurant. They were in the back of the restaurant, the other workers. And all of a sudden I noticed a medal on the bar, and it turned out to be a medal of Mary. I didn't know at the time.
What did you think it was? What medal?
I thought it was St. Christopher because it's the only one I knew.
Because everyone of every religion knows about St. Christopher, right?
Yeah, it's the only one I knew of.
In the car.
Because I didn't grow up Christian or Catholic, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
But a woman that I worked with that was there that night told me it was Mary. She's a devout Catholic.
Yeah.
And that particular night, it was a really busy night working, and a man was choking. And I ended up being able to...
You missed the part about right away you put it on a chain and you've never taken it off, right?
That was at that night. That was later that night. Yeah, that was after it all occurred. I gave it to this woman at first, and I realized I needed to keep it. Kept it behind the bar. And that night a man was choking, and I gave him the Heimlich. It saved him. And the person that alerted me to the man choking was sitting right where that medal had been.
Oh, wow.
And then a week later, and I knew it was not me doing the action. It was coming through me. And the whole night I just kept noticing that medal, and it just really stuck with me. And then a week later another thing occurred, and other things have occurred around this where I've just been a conduit. So again, it's not about me, it's not about Mary, it's about this message of peace.
Why do you think she chose you?
Did
she ever tell you?
No, I have no idea. I really don't know. I can't help but wonder, but I try not to spend too much time on that because one of my sayings I love to say often is, if you need to know, you'll know. So I must not need to know because I really don't know why.
There's something like when you have the need, the guru will appear.
Something like that. Yes. Yeah, something along those lines. So it's a mystery. It's a mystery, perhaps because I'm willing, maybe. Because I'm willing to do the work, maybe. I don't know.
But going back, I read this whole book. I mean, I sat down, and in one day, I got to about here, and then I finished it later. I couldn't put it down. I let my house go. I mean, didn't do everything.
I did that while I wrote the book.
Yeah,
I let my house go.
Yeah. So everyone should get a copy of this,
Thank
really.
you.
It's so compelling. But start with the incident of when you were 12. I thought that was really remarkable. When you were at the ocean with your parents, Jersey Shore.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the first time I really got a sense that there's more to this world than the physical.
Yeah, and that's very young, at 12.
Yeah, and I had experiences before that, but I didn't have a way to frame it.
Right.
But I had a near drowning incident in the ocean, and while I was in the process of drowning and I was unconscious, a voice came and said, "Get up and run." And you know, at first I didn't know what was going on.
How could you run in the bottom of the ocean, right?
Right. Well, I was still unconscious at the time, and then the voice came a couple more times, and I woke up, and I didn't know. I mean, I was in the water, turbulence, I was drowning, and didn't know what was what. I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was terrified. I couldn't breathe. My lungs were screaming for air.
And did you think the way I did when I almost drowned at 16? My parents said, "Don't go swimming today," because nobody could go with me, you know. And so I went with a friend who held my head down. And so I was going under and under. I said, "My mother's going to kill me when she finds out about this."
Yeah, that one didn't go through my mind.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I was terrified. I was
Yeah.
really terrified. I mean, I was in a lot of pain because my lungs were burning, and
Right.
I didn't know how to get out.
It's a terrible feeling.
It's a terrifying feeling.
But then you
It kept me
relax.
out of the ocean for 12 years.
But there's a point where you relax and you go with the flow.
Right. Well, and then I just heard the voice again, and I just somehow I was totally underwater.
Yeah.
My feet went on the ground, and I just started running until I was in a couple feet of water, and then I collapsed because I had compressed vertebrae in my spine.
Oh my goodness!
And
That
and
was
obviously
from
must have had a concussion of some sort,
right,
and I just collapsed and couldn't move, and so the waves were washing over me, and but it was that voice that I knew wasn't from me, and it solidified
and in
a
the
belief.
book you said it was very kind, firm, but loving and kind.
Yes.
That's so you knew it had to be something supernatural.
Yes, and I think, as you just said, that it made me think about maybe that's where I get my inspiration as a father to try and talk to my daughter.
Yeah.
Firm, loving, and kind.
That's right. Isn't that good? Now, when you do Taoism,
yes.
Tao, even though it's T-A-O, but it's not pronounced Tao.
Taoism.
Taoism.
Yes.
And what are the three words that Taoists follow? The three.
The three what they call the three treasures. That we try to almost, I guess you would almost call them precepts in a way.
Right.
Are conscience, mercy, and compassion, and forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
So these conscience, mercy, and compassion are the guidelines for our life, so that we don't get caught up in the everyday life.
So in other words, if someone were to hurt you really badly, like maybe hurt your child or something, you could still apply those three words no matter how badly you felt.
Well, another thing I like to say is you never know what you're going to do.
Right.
Hurt my daughter, that we might have a problem. I don't know. I don't know how I would act, to be honest with you. I hope by practicing all I know is how I practice in my everyday. I really don't know what I will do in any given situation.
None of us do.
I should really say that prior to, as a prerequisite. I don't know what I will do in any given situation.
None of us do we?
We don't. So all I can say is that on an everyday, every minute basis, I try to practice these three by having a basis of virtue in my life, by living a
How do you describe
virtuous
virtue?
life. Virtue.
How do you live a virtuous life?
By listening to that true voice within and acting upon it.
And that voice tells you the qualities of virtuism, or
Well, it's not a moralistic term.
No.
It's not a term
See, right
that's
away
based
I thought
on
it was
rules.
morals. Yeah.
Excuse me?
I thought right away virtue meant having morals.
Most people do, but even if you look in the dictionary, moral, it is a moral uprightness, but really this goes beyond it. It's more the idea of living true to what your inner voice, your original spirit, your connection to God is guiding you to do.
But not everybody has that.
Well, I think we do.
Social paths don't.
Well,
You know.
I think it's there. It's just covered up a lot. Some people it's covered up more than others. That's
I see,
all.
but it's there.
I think as a human condition, it's there.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I do believe that.
So give me an example of where you applied these, rules in your life.
Oh gosh, in everyday life.
Really?
In everything. There's nowhere I don't.
Right.
Right. So.
So give me an example where you applied it.
The simplest way we think of the person cutting us off in traffic. Everybody has that. In Vermont, we don't have much traffic, but here in your area, you have a lot of traffic, right? Yeah. And the first, you're driving down the road, somebody pulls out in front of you. Oh, can you believe what they just did? And if there's somebody sitting next to you, you really keep talking about it, and you carry it with you, and you're so angry, and you can't believe what that other person did to you.
Yeah.
And instead of going there, what I try to do is first you point the finger and say, wow, look at what that person did. And I follow it with the term, how interesting.
Good.
Right? I should say, how interesting. And then I point the finger at myself. And I say, where have I done this myself? Or where have I felt this way before? So then that brings me into a space of compassion for the other. Because if we're honest with ourselves, we always have. So we've always felt the way another has felt, and we've always done what another has done. So we are compassionate. We realize they are just being human. So we're not getting caught up in the game that they're caught up in. And then we can relax about it, right? And another virtuous way to talk about virtue is to not always think about what do I get out of a situation.
Most people think that way.
It's what's gotten in this country into all the trouble it's gotten into. As far as people asking the question, what's in it for me?
Exactly.
And then putting a period after that instead of saying, what's in it for me and how can everybody benefit from it? So that follow it with where everyone can benefit. So in everything I do, I don't think to myself, what can I get out of this? What's in it for me? I say, how is this going to benefit me, and how is it going to benefit the person who I'm dealing with? Even if I get a little less out of the situation.
Then it doesn't bother you.
Right, then there's no worries.
Right.
You don't have an agenda. You don't go into your situations with an agenda, with judgment.
What's happening a lot of that I hear, because of the job situation, there may be, this is a real case, a man had a wonderful job at one of the banks. Who was tremendous at his work. They hired a young woman he thought was going to be his assistant. So she was training to learn, And then after she had known the job, she said, well, I have to tell you, I'm replacing you.
Yeah, I've heard that story many times.
4 children.
Not that particular one, but I've heard it
all
many times.
the private schools.
Right.
And, a wage earner. My wife had to take care of the children. So, how would you react to that?
Well, that's really an interesting thing. And this takes effort, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
The easy way to do would be to say, I can't believe what they did to me.
Yeah.
And to tell that to every single person you know, and to look for somebody to help you deal with it, and to agree with you that they did a rotten thing.
You want people to agree with you.
You want to become a victim.
Yeah.
You want to be a victim. You want them to say that they persecuted you, and you're looking for somebody to be on your side to help you.
Right.
And all you do is go around and round and round, and you're miserable. Right? So the way that we deal with this from these ideas, from the way of peace, is that we look at that and we can say that this situation occurred. This didn't happen to me. I'm experiencing something. Maybe it doesn't feel good, but really the problem in a situation like that is not that the other person replaced you, it's that you have a need for getting more to keep your life maintained as it is.
That's right. No, we don't like change, right?
Well, it's the problem of having to maintain the life we have set up. Right. So the ego gets so caught up in, I need to get more so that I can live my life, and you just got in my way. Now you're the problem.
Exactly.
So you see where my finger goes with every statement like that?
Right.
It's always going outward. Instead of saying, look, all right, this occurred. I am experiencing this as it is happening. It does not feel good. I can't pretend it was pleasant.
It hurts.
But I don't know a life that is always pleasant.